Well, it is officially 12:01, so I think we can go ahead and get the party started. Texas, hey, we will be at TLA next week, Christopher. So hopefully we will see you there. We're also going to be at ACRL next week as well. Just have to put that out there. But anyway, welcome to yes, yay, wonderful. Welcome to our 5 strategies to conquer technical services. Um, Koha is the technical component aspect of Koha is massive and multifarious. We could quite frankly be here for hours and hours talking about all the technical components of Koha if we really wanted to, but we have 25 minutes. So we wanted to create a very broad overview of how to conquer some of the trickier aspects of technical services. And we want to empower your staff so you can better serve your patrons. So some of the things we're going to look at today is cataloging, acquisitions, serials, things like that. And we're going to give some examples and tips and tricks to better empower you to serve your patrons. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jesse Zero, our head of sales and outreach at Bywater, who will dive deeper into this topic. Thanks so much, Jesse.
Thank you so much, Elise. All right, well, that was a perfect introduction. So we're going to hit all things technical services today. If you have any questions, we have the chat box open. Elise and I will try to monitor that as we're going. We also have a couple minutes at the end, so if you have any questions, we'll be able to answer those as well. So to kick things off, I put together my top 5 things that I think we'll talk about today. To hammer out some of the ways that you can conquer some of the more difficult day-to-day activities that you have at your library and how you can become more efficient with them. So the first thing we're going to talk about is catalog connections. Not only can Koha connect to outside third-party vendors, but we can also bring things in via Z3950. So some of you that I see on here are very seasoned Koha users. Some are very new. Some are thinking about making the switch. This is a great way for you to be able to bring records in from an outside source. So we do connect to OCLC Connection Client, as well as Record Manager. BTCat, for those of you that may be using Baker & Taylor's cataloging platform, we can connect that way. And then, of course, the Z3950 targets. I'll also talk a little bit about streamlining acquisitions. For those of you that use the acquisitions module, there are great ways that you can work directly with your third-party vendors or book jobbers to bring that information into Koha and to really streamline the process within the Koha system. Things like Edifact or EDI, importing your records, and also setting up 9XX matching, meaning you can set those profiles up for your MARC records within the vendor, like Ingram or Midwest Tapes, and then, of course, match that 9XX mapping in your Koha system. Again, streamlining, bringing that information in. I'll talk a little bit about simplifying your subscriptions. For those of you that do use the subscriptions or the serials module, I'll talk a little bit about the Mana database, which helps with prediction patterns, handling claims, and of course, setting up customized subscription fields, which is a feature that sometimes I think people forget about, but it's super helpful. The next thing I'll hit is dynamic labels. Here I'm going to talk about everything to create batches, quick printing, and of course, customizing labels, which we all love to do. And then the last thing I'll hit is proficient processes. I'll talk all about modifications, templates, item search, shout out to my item search fan club folks, and of course, reports. So we'll hit these 5 topics in the next 20 minutes, and we'll talk about all of our favorite things. So to kick things off, we're going to go right into cataloging. So for those of you that are current Koha users, of course, on our main page, we're going to see all of the modules that we have access for. For those of you who are new to Koha or thinking about making the switch, what I'm seeing here are all of the modules that I have permission to. So you can set up for your staff which staff have access to certain modules in the system. So for technical services staff, you can set up the permissions for what they have access to: cataloging, serials, acquisitions, reports, electronic resource management, all dependent on what they need. So we're going to start by kicking things off right into cataloging. And here's where I talked a little bit about those connections. So if you are using OCLC Connection Client or Record Manager, the Bywater Solutions team here, either during your implementation or if you're currently using Kuha, can set up on the back end the connection to OCLC. Essentially, we open a port so the two systems can talk to each other. That allows you to send that information from OCLC directly into Koha, creating those records within the system. With BTCat, or Baker and Taylor's cataloging platform, we have the ability to use an API to connect to BTCat. That allows you to bring information directly in from BTCat into Koha, and you'll be able to see that information in there. And then, of course, there's the good old Z3950 target. And this, of course, allows us to search in other outside sources so we can bring a copy of records into the platform. And I always like to talk a little bit about this because you can customize what you see here. So you'll notice here we have our Z39 search targets. Now, I'll show you in administration where you can set those up. But this allows you to search here by multiple platforms, right? Whether I'm looking for a title or author, or I just want to pick up my scanner and scan the ISBN. This allows me to go out and search for that particular title in the system. So I'm going to do a quick search here. I'm searching for Good Marriage. That's going to search all of my targets out there and bring back a list of the results. Now, one thing that I always recommend setting up for those of you using the Z39 are the additional fields. This is a system preference that allows you to customize additional fields in the MARC record that you would like to see. Love this. So if you want to look at those RDA fields, sometimes people want to look at the control field or the control number. You can come in and see all of that. So you'll notice right here, I'm showing the 336 and the 338, so I can tell right away the type of format that this particular record is. So again, just a really nice way to be able to quickly identify the information, whether you're looking for print or an online record within the system. Now, of course, you'll notice over here, you can also preview that information before you import a copy of that record into the system. So just some easy tips for that Z39. Now, for my administrators on the call, setting up your Z39 targets allow you to come in here in administration under additional parameters, which allows you to set up any of those targets within the system. I'm also going to show you a little tip and trick. If you click the help manual, this will take you out to the cataloging section where it talks a little bit more about setting up the Z3950 targets if you forget. But I also like to show the IR Spy link, which is a link to Library of Congress lists of targets. And so you can see a target directory of open Z39 calls. You can either browse by those colleges that are listed in the system, or you can search. I usually look for ones that hit 100%. That means that's a pretty good connection. So if you're looking for ways to make those catalog connections, this is a great one. And then for those of you that may be using those third-party connections in administration, please submit a ticket. For those of you that are thinking about making the switch to Koha, we'd be happy to talk to you about how we connect with OCLC and BTCat. Next, we'll talk about streamlining acquisitions. So within the acquisitions module, the first thing I always like to talk about is EDI, or EDIFACT ordering. EDIFACT ordering allows you to connect to outside vendors to essentially transport information back and forth from your Koha system over to that vendor. So in this example here, you'll see we have both Baker and Taylor and Midwest Tapes set up as our EDI account vendors within the system. This allows us to come in and identify information for a particular vendor within the system. So if we come over here, you'll be able to see essentially what we're looking at. So we'll see the vendor. Each vendor has connected plugins that you can use within the system that allows you to customize what data is being sent back to the vendor within the system. You'll notice here the transport is via FTP. So that's how we're sending and communicating with the other libraries, vendors, and then of course, additional information. And all of these things, Bywater Solutions will work with your library to help you set up and make sure that all of your information is set within the system. Now, also with your EDI information, you have the ability to set up MARC order accounts. Now, this is a new feature that just came in 2411, and this allows you to identify information that you are sending to and from your vendor. And what's nice about this is you can easily send those MARC records that you might be downloading from either their site, maybe if you use Ingram's iPage or Baker and Taylor's TS360, you probably download them and then upload them into Koha. What this allows you to do is you can actually send them directly into the Koha system. Again, this is something that just came in the 2411 release, and this allows you to set up that information. So what this does is this creates a connection between your Koha system and that outside vendor. We use SFTP, or Secured File Transfer Protocols, and you can match that information, set up values, and then decide if it finds a match, how it brings it in. So this is just another way to streamline bringing records into your Koha system from an outside source. I want to make acquisitions as easy as possible. So these are all great features that you can use within the system. The other thing that I think helps a lot with streamlining acquisitions is the new layout or the UX enhancement that you'll see in acquisitions in 2411. You'll notice now that from the main landing page, we can search right from the platform. So you're thinking about something like, I ordered this, I know it should be in, where is it? You can come right in here, scan that ISBN, or maybe you have a title that you're looking for or a vendor invoice. All of that can be done from the main page. So you don't have to go through multiple clicks to find things within the system. All right, our next one that we are going to talk about is serials and subscriptions. For those of you that are using the serials module, this is where we maintain any of our print subscriptions. And there's a couple things that I like to talk about with serials that people should take advantage of. The first is the ability to come in and set subscription fields. This is a nice place where you can add additional fields for information that you may want to track within the system. So you'll notice here, I have one set up for library and I have one set up for local note. So if I have something in my 590A field, I can have that set up so it's an option when I'm creating the subscription, which is really nice. So if you want to track additional information and see that in there, you can add those fields in. There's a button right up top which allows you to add that field. You select the MARC field. If it's repeatable, you can even tie it into an authorized value, which is a drop-down menu within Koha where you can control the vocabulary. And then you have the ability to grab the MARC value from the system. You'll also notice you have an option to set if it is searchable, which would allow you to search that field in the subscriptions module. Now, the next thing I'll talk about with serials is, of course, claims. If you use the claims feature in serials, you can actually come in and see anything that's outstanding within the system. So right now, within each of my serial subscriptions, I have them connected to vendors. This allows me to identify who it's coming from, and I can also place claims. Currently, there's two ways in Koha you can do that. One is through sending a claim directly from Koha. Koha sends the email directly to the vendor. The vendor's email is coming from the vendor's record in the acquisitions module, and you can customize the notice that is sent to them in tools in your notices and slips library. For those of you that might have a great relationship with your rep and you just send them an email, or maybe you just log into their portal and say, hey, we're missing these couple issues, you can actually download a CSV file of the ones you're looking for. So if I come over here, I can say download selected items, and that will allow me to download those within the system. Now, the third thing I want to talk about with Serials is the Mana database. And this is just a really neat way for you to come in and search other libraries for prediction patterns. So once enabled, you can set this up through administration. It allows you to come in and you can either scan the ISSN, type in the title or publisher and search. And so what this is doing is this is going out, and it's almost like a Z39 call. It's going out and it's looking at a database to see other Koha staff and librarians who have shared prediction patterns that work well. And so this Mana database shows all of the subscriptions within the system. I generally look for one that has high users because we know that one is probably right. And that allows you to import a copy of that prediction pattern, because we know those vendors are all snowflakes and they love to change things on us, like going from, 12 a year to 10 a year. So sometimes prediction patterns can be tricky. So this is a nice way that you can copy those prediction patterns into your Koha system without having to start from scratch. All right, the next one we're going to talk about is labels. So in the cataloging module, under the third column, you'll see all things for your labels. Whether you're creating labels that print out on an 8.5 by 11 sheet, maybe you get those labels from, Avery on Amazon, or Gaylord or Demco, whoever you might be using. The label creator allows you to come in and essentially, design and create layouts, which allow you to tell what type of labels you're creating, as well as templates, which allow you to define the type of label that you are printing on. The things that I want to show out to make a little more efficient on your day-to-day is label batches. So dependent on what your workflow is, maybe you're scanning a barcode, or maybe you're entering an item number from a report. There's also a really cool feature that you can do that a lot of people miss, is the add items right down here below. And if I do that, it's going to pop up a modal window here, which allows me to come in and I can search for something specific, or I can select when I cataloged those items. So if I come in here and select those dates, it shows me everything I cataloged. So now I don't have to go back. I don't have to scan them in. I can just come in here and say, let's add those items in. Let's add these, add a few of these. I click add checked, done, and now it's added all of them in for me. So it's really efficient. You can see exactly what you cataloged today or this week. And then you can come in and add those items into your batch collection. So again, for those of you who may be printing on an 8.5 by 11, this allows you to export either individuals or the full batch, and then you can come in and select the type. I love this because if you are using the 8.5 by 11, you don't have to start at the first position. If you've already printed 6 labels, you can come in, export, and then there you have it. This gives me a starting position, starts at 7, and then I can see those spine labels to print off. Now, the other thing with your label printing is the ability to do quick spine label prints. So if you're using a Dymo or a Zebra printer, this allows you to quickly print spine labels from the system. And I love this because you can either just type in a barcode, or of course, as you know, if we're looking at a record within the system, you can enable the ability to print spine labels right from, let's say, the item record. So if we look at a record here, Spring Pearl. And we come down below, you'll notice here, I have the option turned on to print the spine label. So again, I can just do a quick print. So it's efficient no matter where you're at. If you're in cataloging or looking at the item itself, it allows you to come in here and quickly print that spine label to your system. All right, now the last of our 5 conquering technical services is in cataloging. And this one I want to talk about proficient processes. So whether you're weeding out your collection or you're moving items from one location to another, or you just want to set up a rule to, let's say, modify things, all of that can be found in cataloging. In your center column, you're going to see items to do batch editing, deleting, modifying, and moving things around within your system. So this easily allows you to come in and either batch modify a record or an item. Now, there are multiple ways to do this. And what I want to show you is efficient processes. So rather than coming here and maybe entering in a list of record numbers, there are great ways that you can do this from your item search. So I'm going to come over here and go into item search, and we're going to select a couple things here. Let's do books, book clubs, and DVDs, and I'm going to do a quick search. Now you'll notice here, once I'm looking at my results, and let's say I select my visible roles, you'll notice here there's a drop down. Because I have permission to do these batch operations, I can now batch item modify or batch item delete. So again, rather than having to start in cataloging, you can come here, find exactly what you're looking for by narrowing down and doing that item search, and then coming in and doing those either modifications or deletions. This is why we have the item search fan club, because it's so multifunctional and you can do so many things with it. So keep that in mind. Next time you have to do a process, if you're looking for specific items, use that item search feature, because you can jump right in and say batch item modification. Now it's loading it already for you. So it's taken all of those titles that I've added, and I can come in and modify them quickly and easily within the system. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is that you can also do this through reports. So if you have a report where you're looking at something specific, whether it's items or records within the collection, you can also do modifications this way as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and look at never circulated items for weeding. I'm going to come over here and run that. We'll say, let's say acquired before 2019. We'll run that report. And you'll notice here, I have options within the system. So it's showing me that Biblio number. Again, since I have the permission, I can come in here and do batch record modifications or batch record deletion. So this is just, again, instead of having to start in cataloging and add them manually there, I can do it right from a report. So 2 great ways that you can make your processes more proficient by either using the item search or the record reports within the system. You'll also notice that you can add it to a list. So if you want to share this list with a colleague, and get their permission to do some modifications, that would be a great way to do it as well. Now, the last thing I will hit as we go back into our processes is the item modification by age. This is a feature that was added a few years ago, and what this allows you to do is create rules. So I have probably one of the most commonly requested rules set up here. You may have books or items that you identify as new. They probably have a shorter circulation time. Everyone calls them something different. My library calls them sizzlers. They can't be placed on hold, but if you find them in the library, they are first come, first serve. You get them for 14 days. After they're no longer new, then they go into general circulation and they circulate for 21 days. So in this case, in this example, we're saying that after 180 days of being new, automatically change it to book, which takes them to that other circulation rule. So this is just a nice way to have those automatic item modifications set up. You can use any item field within the system, and this is just a great way to be able to do that. Now, this can be tied in with reports. That way you can send a list to staff to say, these are the new items that went to book. Because again, in my case of the Sizzler, there's a big sticker on the front that says that it's a new book and it's a Sizzler. So this would give an update to your staff. All right, so there we have it. Those are my 5 tips for conquering technical services within the system. I am just going to share a quick QR code. This is all of our upcoming webinars for sales and outreach in our Back to Basics series. Next month, we'll be talking about Koha and Aspen in our dynamic duo. And if you are interested in making the switch to Koha, please reach out to Adam and we'd be happy to set up and customize a demo for you. And of course, we can dive in deeper to all those great technical services options that are available within the system. All right, do we have any questions? All right, y'all, you know how to get in touch with us. Oh, we have one, yay. How does that switch from new to book work? Jenny, great question. So the question is, how does the switch work in the item modification? So I'm going to come back over here. There is a cron job, Jenny, that runs in the background. And that cron job was essentially running and it will update anything. So it runs daily and it will update it in the system. So it will automatically change it from, in my case, I have mine set up as my item type as new, and then it switches over to book. So it's just a cron job that automates it for you. That's why most people also add in and run a report. That way staff can be notified to look and see if, something needs to move or change or take that sticker off in the system. So that was a great question. So when the book comes back in, it'll update. It'll be updated in the system. Whoever has it checked out, it's going to obey the rules of when they checked it out. So if when they checked it out, let's say it was 14 days, it's still going to obey that rule. Once it comes back in and it has its next checkout, then it would use the checkout of the changed item type. Great question. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Elise, and have a great week. Bye-bye.